I'm sure you have all heard about Pentagon's UAP, or if you preferred, UFO leaked videos and photos. So after almost 75 years of denial and cover-ups, they decided to go public with information like this. They are confirming something that we knew all along, and it was just a question of time when the truth will come out. And the truth was out there all this time, pun intended. Susan Gauff, Pentagon spokesperson, said, and I quote, "I can confirm that the referenced photos and videos were taken by naval personnel. The UAPTF has included this incident in their ongoing examinations." As we have said before, to maintain operation security and to avoid disclosing information, DoD does not discuss publicly the details of either the observation or the examination of reported incursions into our training ranges or designated airspace, including those initially designated as UAP. However, Gauff refused to confirm whether they remained unidentified or are used as training material for identifiable objects or remain unknown. "I have nothing further for you beyond what I provided," Gauff said. No additional information was provided. "All we can do is wait what will happen next. In the meantime, let's go through the history of cover-ups. But before we dig into it, please subscribe, like and share, and also visit my pal, the 3X, for some really cool real paranormal videos. Okay, let's time travel. In 1947, the United States Air Force issued a press release stating that a flying disc had been recovered near Roswell, New Mexico. This press release was quickly withdrawn, and officials stated that the weather balloon has been misidentified. The Roswell case quickly faded even from the attention of most ufologists until the 1970s. Speculations persisted despite the official denial that an alien spacecraft crashed near Roswell. In the 1990s, the US military published two reports disclosing the true nature of the crashed aircraft, a surveillance balloon from Project Mogul. Nevertheless, the Roswell incident continued to be of interest to the media, and conspiracy theories surrounding the event persists. Roswell has been described as the world's most famous, most exhaustively investigated, and most truthfully debunked UFO claim. In 1948, Air Force pilot Thomas Mantell was killed in a crash while pursuing what he described as a metallic object of tremendous size. Project Blue Book concluded that Mantell has lost control of his aircraft while chasing a then classified skyhook balloon. Some ufologists reject Blue Book's conclusions because of its initial suggestions that Mantell was chasing Venus or a comet. The US Air Force may have planted the seeds of UFO conspiracy theories with Project Sign, established 1947, which became Project Grunge at Project Blue Book. Edward J. Ruppelt, the first director of Blue Book, categorized the Air Force public behavior regarding UFOs as schizophrenic, alternately open and transparent, then secretive and dismissive. Ruppelt also revealed that in mid-1948, Project Sign issued a top-secret estimate of the situation, concluding that the flying saucers were not only real, but probably extraterrestrial in origin. According to Ruppelt, the estimate was destroyed by Air Office Chief of Staff Hoyt Vandenberg. Project Sign's final report, published in early 1949, stated that while some UFOs appear to represent actual aircraft, data were insufficient to determine their origin. Some ufologists have claimed that existence of US government group called the Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit, allegedly established by General Douglas MacArthur, that was supposedly formed to investigate crash and retrieved flying saucers. The 1950s saw an increase in both governmental and civilian investigative efforts and reports of public disinformation and suppression of evidence. The UK Ministry of Defence UFO project has its roots in a study commissioned in 1950 by the MOD then Chief Scientific Advisor, the great radar scientist Sir Henry Tizard. As a result of his insistence that UFO sightings should not be dismissed without some form of proper scientific study, the department set up the Flying Saucer Working Party. In August 1950, Montanan baseball manager Nicholas Mariana filmed several UFOs with his color 60mm camera. Project Blue Book was called in, and after inspecting the film, Mariana claimed it was returned to him with critical footage removed, clearly showing the objects as disc-shaped. The incident sparked nationwide media attention. Frank Scully's 1950 Behind the Flying Saucer suggested that the US government had recovered a crashed flying saucer and its dead occupants near Aztec, New Mexico in 1948. It was later revealed that Scully has been the victim of a prank by two veteran confidence artists. Donald Keyhoe was a retired US Marine who wrote a series of popular books and magazines articles that were very influential in shaping public opinion, arguing that UFOs were indeed real and that the US government was suppressing UFO evidence. Keyhoe's first article on the subject came out in the True magazine in January 1950 and was a national sensation. His first book, Flying Saucers Are Real, also came out in 1950, about the same time as Frank Scully's book, and was a bestseller. In 1956, Keyhoe helped establish NICAP, a powerful civilian UFO investigating group with many inside sources. Keyhoe became its director and continued his attacks on the Air Force. Other contemporary critics also charged that the United States Air Force was perpetrating a cover-up with its Project Blue Book. Canadian radio engineer Wilbert Smith, who worked for the Canadian Department of Transport, was interested in flying saucer propulsion technology and wondered if the assertion in the just published Scully and Keyhoe books were factual. In September 1950, he had the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. arrange contact with US officials to try to discover the truth of the matter. Smith was briefed by Dr. Robert Sarbacher, a physicist and consultant of the Defense Department's Research and Development Board. Other correspondence have to do with the Keyhoe needing to get clearance to publish another article of Smith's theories of UFO propulsion, indicated that Bush and his group were operating out of the Research and Development Board. Smith then briefed superiors in Canadian government, leading to establishment of Project Magnet, a small Canadian government UFO research effort. Canadian documents and Smith private papers were uncovered in the late 1970s, and by 1984 other alleged documents emerged claiming the existence of the highly secret UFO Oversight Committee of scientists and military people called Majestic 12, again naming Vannevar Bush. Sarbacher was also interviewed in 1980s and corroborated the information in Smith's memos and correspondence. Throughout the 1950s and early 1960s, Smith granted public interviews and among other things stated that he had been lent crashed UFO material for analysis by highly secret US government group which he wouldn't name. A few weeks after the Robertson panel, the Air Force issued Regulation 200-2, ordering airbase officers to publicly discuss UFO incidents only if they were judged to have been solved, and to classify all the unsolved cases to keep them out of the public eye. In addition, UFO investigative duties started to be taken on by the newly formed 460 Air Intelligence Squadron, AISS, of the Air Defense Command. The AISS were tasked with investigating only the most important UFO cases having intelligence or national security implications. These were deliberately hidden away from the Blue Book, leaving Blue Book to deal with the more trivial reports. In 1954, an automatic working station for UFO monitoring was installed at Shirley's Bay near Ottawa in Canada. After this station detected the first suspicious event, all data gaining by this station was classified as secret, although the cameras of the monitoring station could not make any pictures because of fog. 1956 saw the publication of Gary Barker, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, the book which publicized the idea of sinister men in black who appeared to UFO witnesses and warned them to keep quiet. There has been continued speculation that the men in black are government agents who harassed and threatened UFO witnesses. Also in 1956, the group Foundation for Earth-Space Relations, led by producer Tatsi Sofit, tested their own flying saucer outside the Long Island town of Ridge Landing. On January 22, 1958, when Donald Kehoe appeared on CBS television, his statements on UFOs were censored by Air Force. During the show, when Kehoe tried to depart from the censored script to reveal something that has never been disclosed before, CBS cut the sound, later stating Kehoe was about to violate predetermined security standards and about to say something he wasn't authorized to release. What Kehoe was about to reveal were 4 publicly unknown military studies concluding UFOs were interplanetary, including the 1948 Project Sign estimate of the situation and 1952 Project Blue Book engineering analysis of UFO motion presented at Robertson panel. Astronaut Gordon Cooper reported suppressions on flying saucer movie filmed in high clarity by the Edwards AFB range photographers on May 3, 1957. Cooper said he viewed developed negatives of the object clearly showing a disc-like object with a dome on the top and something like hole or ports in the dome. When later interviewed by James McDonald, the photographers and another witnesses confirmed the story. Cooper said military authorities then picked up the film and never he nor the photographers ever heard what happened to it. The incident was also reported in the few newspapers such as Los Angeles Times. The official explanation was that the photographers had filmed a weather balloon distorted by hot desert air. Throughout much of the 1960s, atmospheric physicist James McDonald suggested via lectures, articles and letters that the US government was mishandling evidence that would support the extraterrestrial hypothesis. In June 1967, researcher Jacques Vallée was tasked with organizing files collected by Project Blue Book investigator Alan Hynek. Among those files, Vallée found a memo dated 9 January 1953, addressed an assistant of Edward G. Rappelt, an Air Force officer assigned to Blue Book. The memo was signed H.C. Cross, but Vallée elected to refer to the author under the pseudonym Pentacle. The memo referred to a previously unknown analysis of several thousand UFO reports, along with the calls for agreements about what can and what cannot be discussed with the 1953 Robertson panel. Writing in his 1967 journal, Vallée expressed the option that the memo, if were published, would cause an even bigger uproar among foreign scientists than among Americans. It would prove the devious nature of the statements made by Pentagon all these years about the non-existence of UFOs. Jerome Clark comments that many UFO conspiracy theorist tales can be traced to a mock documentary Alternative 3, broadcast on British television on June 20, 1977, but intended for April's Fool's Day, and subsequently turned into a paperback book. Clark cites a 1973 encounter as perhaps the earliest suggestion that the US government was involved with ETs. That year, Robert Eminger and Alan Sandler of Los Angeles, California, were in contact with officials at Norton Air Force Base in order to make a documentary film. Eminger and Sandler reported that Air Force officials suggested incorporating UFO information in the documentary. including as its centerpiece genuine footage of 1971 UFO landing at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. Furthermore, say Emanger, he was given a tour of Holloman AFB and was shown where officials conferred with extraterrestrial biological entities. This was supposedly not the first time that US has met these aliens, as Emanger reported that his US military sources have been monitoring signals from an alien group with which they were unfamiliar. And did their ET guests know anything about them? The ETs say no. The documentary was released in 1974 as UFOs Past, Present and Future, containing only a few seconds of Holloman's UFO footage, the reminder of the landing depicted with illustrations and reenactments. In 1988, Shatterell said that the film in question was genuine and that he had seen it several times. In 1976, a televised documentary report, UFOs, It Has Begun, written by Robert Emanger, was presented by Rod Serling. Some sequences were recreated based upon the statements of eyewitness observers, together with the findings and conclusions of governmental, civil and military investigations. The documentary uses a hypothetical UFO landing at Holloman AFB as a backdrop. These were just some of many cases throughout the history, and now it remains to see what will Pentagon do with the rest of classified informations, videos and photos they have been hiding from public. I would like to know what do you guys think about the new events and Pentagon confirming leaked videos and photos. History teaches us they will never tell the truth, so what's behind all of this? But before you leave, please comment, like, share and subscribe. Thank you for stopping by, stay safe and I'll see you soon.